On a recent TSN radio interview, Kaiden Guhle came out and said he's 100% healthy and ready to go for next season. We'll be talking about his interview, plus a bunch of Habs prospects ranked by a stat that projects your NHL point production, and there's a few guys that are a bit higher than you might think. Finally, we got to take a moment to acknowledge Habs legend Nate Thompson and congratulate him on his retirement, so stick around for this edition of Habs Digest. First thing today, Jesse, this is just, we knew it was going to come. We were hoping he was going to be fully ready for training camp, but he's already back at 100%, he says, in a recent radio interview. He joined the show to talk about sticking around Montreal in the offseason, how he's feeling post-injury, what he learned his rookie season, but he said he's back to 100%. Jesse, this interview had so many awesome pieces, right? The fact that he's been staying in Montreal, loves the city, loves the fans, was very happy to praise the city and fans, but also, one thing that I took away from this interview, before we talk about his actual injury status, is just how professional, calm, cool, collected he seemed, and he really seemed to give off a bit of leadership energy despite his quite young age.
It's true, and I wonder if maybe the Habs management is also encouraging our young leadership group to kind of stay in Montreal, because we've seen this from Nick Suzuki, we've seen it from Caufield, but then also Kaiden Guhle, right, which is really nice to kind of see, is that you got to feel like they're really nurturing this young nucleus. And he's obviously shown a lot of leadership abilities in the past with lots of teams that he's been on, but just somebody that at such a young age is just so composed. One of the things we've been saying this whole year is just how comfortable he looked out on the ice, just that it looks like he had just experience beyond his years, so he really kind of shows just that composure both on and off the ice, which obviously you're definitely looking for in a leader, but just so amazing to see him back at 100%, really ready to go, because as we reported, as we were showing yesterday, Caufield, he's back now at 100%. Obviously, Slaf, he's going to be ready to go at 100%. This team's going to be looking a lot different next year when we're really just having so many players coming back from all these injuries, lots of time to rehab and train, and just ready to go for next season. So definitely really great news to hear.
Well, if the reports from yesterday's video are true, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Apparently, Slafkovsky's lung capacity is above 100%, so a lot of crazy stuff about this. But you're right, Kaiden Guhle, in this interview on the ice, he just is such a, he's just such a cornerstone piece, right? And I don't mean that in the sense that he's your franchise cornerstone that you build around. I just mean that, every team needs a guy like him, right? He's going to have a bit of leadership. He's going to eat up 20-plus minutes every single night. He's maybe not the flashiest, but he always makes the right plays. And it's those guys that you kind of say, wow, this guy looks like a veteran from the first time they step on the ice. Kaiden Guhle is that. So all awesome stuff about that. But yeah, heading into next season with a 100% healthy Kaiden Guhle is awesome. And Jesse, an interesting thought, Kaiden Guhle, kind of that solid guy, 20-plus minutes a night coming for sure on that left side. And in a few years, it's going to be David Reinbacher doing something very similar on the right side. So having those two guys is probably going to be a blessing. But for the meantime, let's talk about some other Habs prospects that'll be probably maybe playing in the next year or two as well. We saw an article today from Marc Dumont, and he ranked the Habs prospects by NHLE. And now NHLE is an NHL equivalency rating. It's not very complicated. Basically, it just takes point production. There's nothing else. It's just point production. Looks at the league that you played in and the points you put up in that league, and they kind of take it as an equivalent for an NHL level season. So, for example, let's show you, Jesse. We've all seen this. We'll actually show the forwards first. Riley Kidney's at the top of the list. They essentially take his 100 points, 110 points in 60 Q games, and they say that's worth about a 43-point NHL season. So as we look at this list, is there anyone that stands out to you? Because I have my guy that I want to talk about. Is there anyone that stands out to you as being maybe a bit higher than you expected, or maybe right where you thought, and it kind of just reinforces your feelings?
Well, yeah, exactly. What reinforces my feeling, I'm so happy to see Joshua Roy so high up. And I was actually a little bit surprised, because a lot of the time the QGMHL, the Q, as they call it, it's it always gets such a bad ranking, right? They say that, it's so easy to score in this league, and prospects that just light it up there, they always just kind of get discredited, and everything else. So it's really nice to see that even though he is playing in the Q, that he is getting such a great rating on this. Obviously all leagues aren't, considered equal. So I do get the merit of this all the same. But what I do find interesting is that, Joshua Watt, he's tried to concentrate on more than just his production of late, of really this last year of becoming a much more an all-around player. And as we saw, even this last year, his production went down from where it was before, but really, I think definitely taking cues from management just to work on some weaker parts of his game. So to still see him get such a high ranking, while kind of focusing on his all-around game, I definitely find very encouraging for his projection in the NHL.
I think that's a great point, actually, because he's one of the more well-rounded prospects the Habs have, and he's still basically right at the top of a projection that would project your NHL point production. So it's just awesome all around. The guy I wanted to talk about a bit is a guy you see twice on this list, and that's Emil Heineman. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Jesse, because I'm just going to go out and say it. I think he's maybe the most slept-on prospect for the Habs. Of course, he came over in the Toffoli trade. And again, I don't know if he projects to end up being like a very solid, top 6 guy in the NHL or anything like that. But the fact that he's on this list, like you can just see, here's what I want to talk about, right? His SHL production, 21 points projected over the course of an 82-game NHL season. But he came over to North America, went to the AHL, and the transition was as smooth as it could possibly be. Now, again, it's a tiny sample size of just 11 games, but the fact that he upped his production when he came to North America is really astonishing to me, and I feel like that really bodes well for his future this season. I'm sure he's going to play a lot with the Rocket, but I don't know. I know you've been pretty high on Heineman in the past. Do you think this could be an indication that he has a little more to give even come this season?
Yeah, definitely, because you can even argue that the AHL is the harder league as well. But what's really nice to take away from these analytics is that it really points that he's transitioning well to the North American game, which is what it's all about, right? Which is so important, right? So crucial to that success in the NHL. So he's showing he can really adapt to that smaller ice surface, the increase in the speed of the game, everything else. So it's a really, really great sign. And, definitely, I think, prospect to definitely keep an eye on as well, Great to see Riley Kidney getting some love as well on this. He has stepped up his game of late. So I think he's an interesting one to keep an eye on. I don't think, obviously, none of these prospects, you can't rule any of them out, right?
Of course.
So definitely gonna have to be patient. But, he's blossoming at the right time, which is huge, right, for him in his development. So he's also another sleeper player to definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch the Laval Rocket this year because a lot of these guys are going to be playing there. And, boy, it's just going to be – oh, I'm so excited. I want to go see a game if I can. It's going to be amazing. Before we move on to the final topic, Nate Thompson, we're going to talk a little bit about the defensemen, but there's really not a whole lot to point out here. They just kind of take these guys. It's point scoring, so it's not really – it's not as applicable to a defenseman as it is a forward. Of course, Lane Hutson's at the top, having an NHLE of 40 points, which is almost the same as Joshua Waugh and Riley Kidney as the top of the forwards. But a guy maybe that flies a bit under the radar, Jesse. I mean, Adam Engstrom too. But Bogdan Konyushkov, of course, he's an overage defenseman the Habs drafted just this year. He just signed an extension to KHL. But I did want to mention him just because, he might come over to the Habs in 3-4 years from now. And it's really not that easy to put up a ton of points as a D-man in the KHL. So I don't know. Do you know much about him? Do you think that he could ever be in the future plans, or do you think it's just kind of one of those, if he blows up, he'll be on his way over?
Yeah, I think he could definitely be part of our plans. It's as we're kind of we're taking our time developing our prospects, so it's okay that he has some time to play at some hockey at a very high level at the KHL. I think we're only drafting him if we see him as being part of the future, even if we kind of take our time. But it's interesting, to look at this because it is some pretty good production there for sure. So it is really nice to see, so that's it, So also Mailloux, definitely no surprise there. Yeah. Obviously ranking so high, had a great year last year in terms of production. But I mean, any analytics that's kind of, showing Lane Hutson projecting well at the next level at the NHL, I'm definitely going to take. I definitely think that's great to see. So I'm definitely a fan of that.
Yeah, me too. Final topic, Jesse. Let's just spend a minute here. Nate Thompson officially calls it a career. Now, he didn't spend a ton of time with Montreal, under 100 games, but I think we all have very fond memories of Uncle Nate. He posted a video of him on a podcast announcing he's retiring. He said, "From the time I was 4 until 38, hockey has been my life and best friend. I'm beyond grateful and thankful for all the great people I've met and friendships I've made. All good things must come to an end, so thank you to all who supported me along this journey." Nate Thompson is one of those guys, Jesse, the heart and soul of a team, even if he doesn't always get the most ice time, right? He was between like 12 and 15 minutes a game. With Montreal, about 13 a game. But I really fondly remember him as being a guy that really brought the locker room together, a guy that gave his all on every single shift, wasn't afraid to get down and dirty, always pumping the guys up, always kind and gentle to the fans. I have nothing but positive memories about Nate Thompson. So just kind of, I don't want to say paying my respects. It sounds like he died. He's not, but at the same time, he's like, I don't know, just Habs legend in my eyes, and someone I'm definitely never going to forget.
Yeah, great team guy. And I definitely, one thing I remember so much with Thompson from his time is just being so good on the dot,
Oh, yeah.
and even then, even though it was a couple years back, still providing that vet sort of presence on the Habs and everything else. So, I mean, kudos to him on a very long NHL career, at 38 years old. Obviously, he's watched the game change a lot, and his time had to adapt, play some different roles as well. So, definitely wishing all the best to him on his next chapter.
Yeah, same here. Face-off dot, I looked it up before we started recording, 55.1% with Montreal. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that would be tops on the team right now. And if not tops, it's just Monahan, I think, ahead of that. So, really awesome guy. Always need a player like that. Congratulations to you, Nate Thompson. Best of luck in retirement. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 7,000 subs. We really appreciate it if we could get there very, very soon. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting recently, and we hope you guys stick around for a long time in the future. I'm Josh Gosse, for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.